The beeping of machines filled the emergency room, the kind of sound that drilled into your chest and made breathing harder. The man sitting in the corner hadn't blinked in a while. His rough hands trembled against the edge of his jeans. A single dad, barely holding himself together, staring at the doors where doctors had taken his little boy moments ago. He whispered to himself, "Please, not again," unaware that in a few minutes, someone would sit beside him, a stranger whose presence would change everything. He was the kind of man life had hit too many times. His name was Daniel Cole. 34 years old. A construction worker who had learned how to patch roofs and hearts with the same calloused hands. 3 years ago, his wife had died in a car accident. Since then, every day felt like walking on broken glass barefoot. His 6-year-old son, Noah, was the only light left. But that night, as he carried Noah through the hospital doors, burning with fever and struggling to breathe, it felt like that light was slipping away. Hours passed. Nurses moved like ghosts, faces blurring under the harsh fluorescent light. Daniel sat in silence, clutching a small toy car Noah had dropped earlier. The sound of laughter from another part of the ward cut through the tension like a cruel reminder. Some families left smiling. Some didn't. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes red from tears he didn't want anyone to see. Then he felt it, a presence beside him. He glanced over, expecting another parent waiting on bad news. But the woman who sat down didn't look like she belonged there. She was calm, poised, wearing a black coat that seemed too expensive for a hospital bench. Her hair framed her face in soft waves, and her eyes, quiet, kind, yet heavy with their own grief, met his. For a moment, they said nothing. The air between them felt strange, like two broken worlds had accidentally collided. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and steady. "The waiting hurts more than the truth, doesn't it?" Daniel blinked, unsure how to respond. "Yeah," he murmured, his throat tightening. "You waiting for someone too?" She looked ahead at the double doors. "I used to." Her words were simple, but the ache behind them made him turn to her. He saw it now, the faint tremble in her hand, the wedding ring she still wore, the sadness that didn't fade even when she smiled. "I lost my husband here," she said after a pause. 2 years ago. Same hall, same smell of coffee and disinfectant. I still come here sometimes. It doesn't make sense, I know. But I sit where I last waited for him." Daniel's chest ached. He wanted to say something, anything, but words felt useless. So he just nodded. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "Don't be. Grief never leaves us. It just learns to sit quietly." The hours blurred together. She stayed beside him, not talking much, just being there. Every so often, she'd hand him a cup of coffee, or tell him a small story about her late husband, a man who built tech companies and hated ties. She never said her name. And Daniel never asked. Somehow, it didn't matter. When the doctor finally came out, Daniel stood so quickly the coffee spilled down his hand. "Your son's stable," the doctor said, and those words hit him like sunlight breaking through clouds. "He'll need monitoring overnight, but he's going to be okay." Daniel's knees nearly gave out. He covered his face, a sob escaping, relief shaking through his whole body. When he finally turned to thank the woman, she was standing, smiling softly. "You go to him," she said. "He needs you more than I do." He nodded, wanting to tell her she'd helped more than she knew, but she was already walking away, her heels echoing down the sterile hallway. The next morning, Noah opened his eyes, weak but smiling. Daniel sat beside his bed, holding his tiny hand. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't dared to hope. He told Noah about the kind lady from last night, how she'd stayed with him. When the nurse came in with Noah's breakfast, Daniel asked, "Hey, the woman who sat here last night, did she check out?" The nurse frowned. "I'm not sure who you mean. No visitors came through after midnight." He paused, confused. Maybe she'd left quietly. Or maybe she wasn't meant to be found. A few days later, as Daniel signed Noah's discharge papers, a man in a crisp suit approached him. "Mr. Cole," the man asked. "I'm from the Hawthorne Foundation. Mrs. Hawthorne asked me to give you this." He handed Daniel an envelope and left before he could ask questions. Inside was a handwritten note. "You reminded me that love doesn't end, it just changes form. Use this to rebuild what you've lost." And beneath the note, a check enough money to pay off his medical debts and start anew. Daniel stared at the paper, disbelief flooding him. Hawthorne. The name clicked, the billionaire widow everyone had seen in magazines. The woman who'd lost her husband in a plane crash years ago. That was her. He turned to Noah, tears gathering again, but this time they weren't from pain. Guess angels don't always wear wings, buddy, he whispered, smiling through the ache. Outside the hospital, sunlight spilled across the parking lot. Daniel lifted his son into his arms, feeling the weight of both loss and grace. Somewhere out there, a woman who had once known unbearable pain had chosen to ease someone else's. And that one act of kindness had rewritten the story of a man who thought he was all alone, because sometimes, the ones who save us are the ones who've already been broken, too.